and to change that part of the formula. We went back down to 2.75, right? Because our assessed valuation as a district went up last year, is that right?
But that was 2 years ago,
Okay.
but yes. We could have went up as high without any adjustment or deviation to $2.79, 279.6. We could have done that, but we've kept it at 275, and the budget was as written last year at 275.
Do we need to, it's just a hearing, we're not voting on anything?
It's an action item in our actual.
In open session.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, away we go. Welcome everybody to August regular board meeting. Call this meeting to order. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. You folks know the same. All right, agenda approved. And we don't have anybody for open forum.
Did not have anybody request to speak.
Okay, very good. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, yes, or right hand? Opposed? The same. All right, sublist approval. Anybody have any questions on the, oh, we approved the whole thing at once. All right, there we go. Approve the minutes of the last meeting. Can I have any comment on the minutes? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Which meeting minutes are we approving?
We are approving
The
the
August 3rd?
regular open session minutes.
I'll make
No.
a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes. I can't even talk tonight. I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, one abstention. Any opposed? The same. All right. Meeting minutes are approved. Now that does beg the question, the August
The special
3rd meeting, do
session.
we have minutes, the special session, do we have minutes for that?
They were in the,
They were.
They are
in the-
posted.
Mhm.
yes, they were in the board packet.
Okay, so let's go ahead and approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the special session meeting minutes for August 3rd.
All right, on favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same. All right, minutes are approved. Okay, approval and transfer and payment of bills. Any question on transfer and payment of bills?
One comment, we did have a little bit of an unusually high water bill. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I didn't put it in my brief. Called the water department and discussed it with them, and they were, so there's the water you use, and then they also charge you for sewer and carry that water away. I explained to them that the increase in usage was based on irrigation, and there was no, it wasn't necessary to carry that away. So the Public Water Supply District Board approved a $1,200 credit back to us for that water bill, and then I'll stay in contact with them for as long as we're running it out there.
It should go down this winter.
It'll go
be
down
closer
considerably,
to
yes.
normal, and then next year, it should be less than this year, just because you water once a day instead
Yep,
of,
a
or
little bit easier.
actually, I think you water a couple of times a week instead of multiple times a day. Very good.
Well, I was gonna ask, there's a couple items on there. It looked like there was fraudulent charges. I think we talked about this.
Yep, talked about that same last meeting.
Mhm.
Still working with the credit card company to
Yeah.
get those taken care of, but they credit us those back.
Yes, they,
Hopefully that all pays out.
well, that card now has a PIN number attached to it, so we won't have trouble with that card anymore, surely.
Didn't have any new ones, right?
Can I get a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills?
Move to approve the transfer of payment of bills.
Do I have a second? Further discussion? Okay. Raise your right hand to approve the transfer and payment of bills. Opposed, the same. All right, transfer and payment of bills are approved. Reports. Elementary.
As of last Friday, midday, our enrollment is about 271, so we're up about 5 students from last year. And on the back, I think we're up about 25 from 2 years ago. So we have this kind of steady increase going on. The Health and Wellness Fair, I want to mention that all of the vendors are listed on the back of the report, but we had a really nice Health and Wellness Fair. So kudos to Joyce Everett, the amount of effort she put into getting those vendors here. Just really was a wonderful event. Lots of our parents were here and our kiddos. They all received, all students are getting a free t-shirt. And of course, the school supplies and resources that were shared with them were just really high quality, good stuff. So I'm glad that that went so well. Preschool screening, we had last week, about 40 students screened for preschool. Letters have now been sent home with the information that they received and the results of that. I wanted to just point out Cassie Sneller and Abby Duke, our PAT coordinators and our PAT teachers. And so if there are any students out there, any children out there, I guess I should say, that haven't been kind of hooked in and are looking for, or their parents are looking for some guidance maybe on child development, they're the ones that contact us, and we can put them in contact with them, but they do a lot of home visits and really a great resource for this community. So I wanted to mention them. I was going to mention the Wildcat team. We kind of changed up this year a little bit and invited some staff to be a part of this leadership team. And so I had about 10 staff members come last week, and we formed the Wildcat team and really are going to look at culture in our building. We're going to break it down into students and staff and parents and community, and see what we can do to get parents and community a little bit more involved now that we're kind of lifting some of the things that we've had to kind of function under the last couple of years. We want to really get parents and community back in our building again. And so focusing, of course, on staff and of course on students. So I'm excited about the direction that's going to take, and all of that positive culture. The whole idea is to tie into our mission statement and really figure out how can we educate, engage, and empower our student staff and our community. Kindergarten team put up signs earlier this month in all of our incoming kindergarten students' yards. And so it's always a fun event for them and for the students and for the parents. And so big thank you to Mrs. Jordan, Mrs. Sig, and Mrs. Holschneider for taking the time out to make that happen and go out there and meet those students. Registration, very busy last week, registered nearly 200 students. We still have several that will get that information. We know that they're returning maybe, but that we just don't have the updated information. So big thank you for the parents to come out and get that done. It's so much better for us to do that registration now, get all that updated information, medical information, contact information, so many pieces, how you're getting home on the first day of school, for us to do all that now rather than right there at open house or right at the first start, the first day of school, the first couple of days of school. So that's going to help us, I think, have a smooth start. Open house will be this Thursday. We have a couple of food vendors going to be here. The senior class has picked up one of the fundraisers is going to offer some pork burgers, and then we have RJ's Italian Ice. So hopefully that will help to create a fun, festive environment too, as people come into the school and drop off school supplies and meet their teachers. Junior deputy, they have, sheriff's department's been working with us this summer to schedule that. So our fifth graders will begin classes on August 31st. Ned show is something we've been wanting to engage with the last year or so, and we've been able to put a date on the calendar for that. So the first Friday we're back, we're going to have the Ned show Zoom in live with us. They'll do a live show just for us. And if you've ever seen that before, it's pretty phenomenal. It's really an inspirational show that really lifts our kids up. The goal is N is never give up, E for encourage others, and D for do your best. So we're going to do that about 1 o'clock on Friday. We're first week back at school, and then teachers can spend some time with their classes just setting goals and setting up the school year. What do you want out of the school year, and how are you going to live out the NED mission? So I'm excited about that. Just wanted to mention professional development. We have scheduled 5 days with Dr. Brown, which is the reading specialist that worked with our staff last year. She's going to come back just a trim down, about half the number of days as last year, just to be here to support some of those key places during our school year, and also to get in those classes. We've got a couple of new teachers that I know that they'll want some information from her, and maybe her modeling some lessons for them and working with them on some things. And so we'll have her back. And then we also have Joe Mobley, who is with Conscious Discipline. I mentioned that somewhere in one of the last board meetings. Joe's going to be here one day in the fall and one in the spring, and that's a mental health focus. Conscious Discipline is a whole mental health and wellness kind of way of working with students to help them de-escalate and understand how the brain works. So I'm excited about that. And that was something the staff really wanted. So I'm glad in working with Joe this summer, we were able to nail down a couple of good days that matched our Monday PD schedule. And then upcoming events, we had, some new teachers here today, which was a fantastic group and really good time working with them and getting to meet them. And I think they got very comfortable with the rest of the staff, and it was just a really nice day with them. And then we'll have all teachers back and all staff back tomorrow and Thursday with open house Thursday night and first day of school on the 23rd. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Middle school, high school.
Well, things are getting busy at the middle school and high school. It's fun to have the teachers coming back in. We're starting to get some color on the walls. Like, it's exciting. We had our new teacher orientation today. We have 11 new staff in our building, which is quite a few, but they are so excited and so ready to get to work. So we're excited to have everybody back tomorrow and getting things going. We had our enrollment registration last week. We have 365 kids, grades 6 through 12. So have quite a big number there, which is exciting. We are welcoming the 6th graders to the middle school. So that's going to be a change this year. So on Thursday night for open house, we're going to do an orientation for 6th and 7th grade, so they kind of know what to expect that first day. We're also going to do an orientation for our 9th graders as they're getting ready to come into our building. And a lot of our focus for PD this year, we're going to look a lot at curriculum, building that curriculum, making it all in one spot, hopefully get some of it online. So that's our goal for this next school year. So we're ready to get started next week.
Questions? Right. Very good. Thank you very much. Superintendent report.
So like Tracy had communicated to us, new staff came to campus today. That was a really good experience. We had about 20 new staff district-wide, teachers, administrative areas, our nurses. That was really great. We had a great welcoming committee activity, actually, that I was really surprised at how well they did that. Got us to know each other and really get acclimated into what our campus culture and environment is like. So that was really great. Continuing to try and be involved in the community and extending invitations for involvement. Every opportunity, I'm still just trying to say, well, why don't you come in? We'll talk about it. I don't know that we're going to run with your idea, but I'm interested in hearing more, and we'll both go to the same place once we have a conversation. All staff return tomorrow. Looking forward to that, just the campus coming to life. Students next Tuesday, so we'll officially begin with Wildcats in the building then. We've had 2 ALT meetings this year, which have been really positive, great collaborative conversations. And I think that you're going to be really pleasantly surprised this year as this team gels and really gets some traction. There'll be a focus on student and parent interactions as we get kids in the building in the coming weeks. So I'm excited about that. Personnel and staffing, we're actually looking really good. I've been waiting for this meeting to pull some of those out. We'll have our closed meeting afterward, but our list is getting very, very small. And I would say we're at about 98%. We're just patching a couple of small holes here and there, but we're looking really good. I'll let principals, or we'll talk about that in closed session as we bring some folks on board. A couple of coaching openings also that we'll be talking about later on. Staff, again, still looking for covering a couple classes here and there, but I think we're about 98, 99% there. We're really lucky for that. Looking through MSIP data, we'll be working through that with the campus administrative team as we get our data back on assessments we took last spring with our students. That will drive our conversations in terms of program and campus improvement and district improvement plans. So we'll be looking to collaborate with campus staff on those items. Professional development will continue to work through needs with the ALT and the PD committee. We'll use MSIP data to drive that. We do have a few deficits here and there. It would be misleading if I said I was just super happy to see our student achievement data. We've obviously got some room to improve, but I think we're fully capable and we'll be focused and improve a great deal over this year. Facilities wise, I'll defer to Mr. Wilson. He's doing a good job. We're improving daily. Something that we will talk about a little bit later is resurfacing our track this year. Ms. Smith did a good job preparing for that, and I think we can do it this year with little to no interruption in our more normal as planned budget. We do have quite a few systems in disrepair. I'll defer to Mr. Wilson again on that, but we're working through kind of a campus needs and a campus audit and evaluation. And again, we'll work through cleaning and maintenance schedules. Mr. Wilson's doing a great job. Athletics and fine arts. It was wonderful seeing our athletes back on campus the last couple of weeks, just seeing that activity. So that's been great. We do have a first football game coming up, a lot of firsts for the year, but the first in a long time for our football program. So we're looking forward to that. We do have a choir director that is going to help us out at the middle school and high school level. We will need to continue looking for a part-time solution or a full-time solution there. Coaches training has been interesting. We are getting a comprehensive training program together for our coaches. We haven't always done that. So that's something that we're working on. Band had a great camp and has already made a public performance as well. Of course, budget and finance, we have set the tax levy. We have pretty healthy balance in Fund 3, about 1.4, just short of that with our levy. We do have something there that we'll talk about later in discussion, but we have about $582,000 in debt service each year, but our debt service tax rate brings in a little over $800,000. So we have about $244,000 a year there that we'll need to think about what we want to do with that, how to most effectively use it to serve our students, staff, and the community. Looking at applying for a grant for Department of Natural Resources for an outdoor recreation can include a lot of different things, including archery ranges, walking, running trails. Going to just work with the staff and see what we think our priorities are and see what we can get in terms of support there. Continuing to work through a budget process, training new principals on what that looks like, responding to needs as they arise. Probably the most common question I'm still asking is when you need that, is that something that we planned for last year? And if so, walk me through that, what that discussion was like. And so we did a pretty thorough job going into budget season, but we still have some work and I think we'll be successful there.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, what's the coach's training time?
Just things like CPR training, concussion training, heat protocols.
We don't, okay.
We haven't always done that with Fidelity. We've had some, but not all. Coach Minix has made sure.
They should mandate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other questions? Maintenance and facilities report. Yeah, welcome. This is, I guess, your first meeting in front of us. So yes, all right. We'll welcome Lennar too. Welcome across the street, I guess.
First thing we'll talk about is the grounds. We will continue to be an area of focus for us. We have been devoting a lot of time to getting everything in great shape. With the help of some facility staff and a few volunteers, we have put a big dent in what needs to be done. We won't stop there. The goal is to develop a system to prevent things from regressing once things are up to par. For the playground equipment, we have moved forward on the installation of the playground equipment that was provided to us months ago. The equipment is set and secured. We plan on finishing everything up by the end of the week if everything goes as planned. With HVAC, rehab and heating and cooling are wrapping up the repairs to the HVAC system. As you are aware, we took a possible lightning strike that damaged both the condenser. Out here for the middle school, one of the units was able to be repaired, but the other will need to be replaced. The Superior Service was able to locate a comparable unit to replace it in Illinois. The trouble was finding a 440 volt unit at a short notice. The unit should be replaced and functional in the next week or so. I did get a call right before this meeting, and we'll be installing it first thing tomorrow. Dietary equipment, as you're probably aware, when doing a temp test on the brand new ovens in the kitchen, one of the glass doors, the top one, shattered. Which is obviously a manufacturer default. So it went out around 300 degrees. The unit is still under warranty and all expenses will be covered. Still working on the time frame for the service to be completed. However, they are aware of our time frame and will do their best to complete the repairs before our start date. Also, the combi oven is fixed. It's from a bad leak in one of the fill valves, but it has been repaired as of yesterday, I believe. Also, on my walkthrough through the kitchen, I noticed that both commercial refrigerators were not functioning. They both have now since been repaired. As far as our janitorial, the janitor foreman, I'm still observing. I do believe we have an excellent crew. I am working to provide clear and focused direction. This will be my next project. I plan on instituting a general janitorial cleaning program that will follow and evaluate and be evaluated periodically. It will be a learning process, but we'll get it. And I do want to thank you all for the opportunity to use my expertise in facility management that I've acquired over there for 25 years. So, and to improve the environment and experience of every student and parent that walks through our campus. So to make the community proud to support our school.
Thank you. Well, welcome and thank you for the thorough report.
Yeah, Cliff, happy to have you. Good job there.
All right, discussion items. COVID procedures discussion.
CDC did release an update just a short time ago, talked about a no quarantine period for close contacts. I've reached out and asked for some guidance from our Osage County Health Department. Don't have anything definitive yet, but we left with a solid COVID precautions plan last year as we exited. So we're going to maintain that until the county health department tells us to adjust differently. And so we're going to just stay with what we've got until they advise us.
Where are we right? I mean, what does the policy say right now?
If you're
Like close
exhibiting
contact,
symptoms.
just only if you're exhibiting symptoms, you
Yeah.
need to go home.
Yep, and test.
How many days after
Still
symptoms
fine.
disappear?
It, after, I believe it's 5 days in total.
CDC still sticking with that one? Or
They
backed
want
up
you
on
to
that?
test 2 days after. If you test negative and then are symptomatic, non-symptomatic, then you have to test 2 days later. Just make sure it's still negative.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one? I've got all sorts of opinions, but I'll let my time. All right, surplus items discussion.
So as you guys recall, this room was filled with a lot of old curriculum that we have had for years and hasn't been used. It is now out in our maintenance facility to make room to have school, and so that we're not using this. We got one bid on one item for $10, and we have about 6 pallets stacked 3 to 4 feet high of items. Curriculum's kind of like software. After it gets 3 to 5 years old and we change standards and we change scope and sequence, there are a lot of things that impact that make those items obsolete. I do not anticipate that anybody is going to pay anything for anything that we have. So I'm just really looking for some guidance on how you would like me to handle that. If we decide just to keep it, we'll, in my opinion, we'll be paying to heat and cool it and keep it dry until we're just fully satisfied that no one's going to give us any money for it. It's just old and outdated.
It's just like that.
Just books, workbooks, consumables that were never used. Some of them
I
were
was
like.
thinking bonfire.
And we probably don't want to say bookworking in a
No,
school. school
bonfire
board
sounds
meeting.
more
Yes.
exciting.
Recycle it, right?
I would
Is
think
there a
so.
reason in the world not to recycle that? No one's ever gonna use those metal stuff.
I agree.
I would say we recycle it.
That is the old curriculum part of it. And just looking through, Mr. Wilson and I looking through the maintenance shed and some items that we've been storing in the containers. We also have some very old and outdated equipment that has been on gov deals before, not sold, but we weren't convinced and is still there. I mean, desks from, I guess, is the 60s, 70s, old tables. That we really need to get rid of instead of house it. Keep that storage space for items that we might actually use again. And then with that space, move the things that are currently being stored in our operations building out there to actually do maintenance of facility operations, if that makes sense. So we'll be moving forward with that. Just as we'll probably wait till kids get here and staff get here fully, but then probably in a couple weeks from now, we'll be looking at cleaning a lot of that stuff out.
There's a lot of junk in there. I mean, I remember walking through there and it looked like all garbage to me.
There is a lot, and it's just stacked up in piles, and some of those piles were kept inside of closed containers in portable buildings, but they still look like the piles that were left outside.
Get rid of it all.
Agreed. All right, let's talk about the track.
Track resurfacing is something I would like to do. I believe we have money in the budget, even if we just took a look at sliding some of our Fund 3 to Fund 4 for capital projects. Even our $244,000 overage in debt service this year would more than pay for our track resurfacing, and we need it very badly for our track programs. I would like to, one of my major reasons, not only do our kids need it, but we have a long and storied tradition of Lynn Wildcat track that I think our track should reflect that storied tradition. And it's something I'd really like to move forward on.
Have we gotten an updated quote?
We have not.
Okay.
We'll be working with, we're going to reach out to Mammoth, which is a planning consultant for that specific facility, and talk to them about what they might charge us to give us a detailed short and long range plan to actually improve our facilities, track, cross country, that entire section of the campus. We've done some really good things here here recently, including some, like I would use probably the primary example is our long jump pits. Unfortunately, we forgot to put a drain in those long jump pits. We'll have to go back and do that. While a consulting company like Mammoth will charge us a little bit of money to do that consultation, we won't be going back to do those things that we'll have to in a few different areas now. And so I think that'll be the benefit that's well worth what we might pay them to help us out with the planning.
And then they could look at, I mean, if we'd ever do a softball field, if we'd ever do a football practice field, they could do a master plan for
Absolutely.
where we would, how and where we would put all that. Which, based upon our experience with the track and a lot of things being done incorrectly on the track, I think that might not be a bad idea to bring somebody in to help us develop, somebody that really knows what's going on.
Yes.
Master plan.
With the funding, are you thinking the color or the black top? I know we kind of had that discussion prior.
I don't think there's much. The difference is the wear layer. The wear layers where you get the color one way or another. We'll have a couple of options and then we'll come back before we commit to one or the other. In the great scheme of things, I want our kids happy. I want our parents happy. And when our community comes and our visitors, I want them to be impressed by the facility that we provide our kids. Black or red for me, quite honestly, makes no difference. It'll be looking at what our preference is compared to cost, the return on that investment.
All right. So we think we'll have an update maybe next month on that
Yes,
one, or, okay. All right. The model compliance plan for special education.
Thank you all for talking about this. DESE sends out their recommendation for the model compliance plan every year. From what I've seen on DESE's website, they're actually adopting the exact same one that we had last year, that whoever sat on the board last year for that same one. On that same website, they also offer the option to a guidance on how to create your own. My professional opinion, what Bob and I have talked about, if it's for whatever it's worth, when you're looking at that model of how to create your own, we just don't have the capacity or the volume of students that would warrant a need to diversify and go against what most districts do, which is adopt that compliance plan. So if you guys have any questions for me about that, I'd be happy to guide you in why I would choose this one as opposed to creating our own. But simple answer is that most districts that create their own are seeing a much higher volume of special education students to warrant a more direct approach to facilitating that and accompanying those kids. Any questions? This is what we've done in years past is about this.
Thanks for jumping in and taking on special education.
Thank you. Thank you guys for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, anything special, just.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Virtual teacher sharing conference meeting.
This is something that has popped up twice now since I've been here, and it's with the Show Me Conference superintendents. We're actually in a much better position with personnel and staffing than our counterparts are in the conference. They are struggling in far greater ways than we are. They're just trying to come up with, creative ways to help solve their staffing issues. So one of the things they proposed was perhaps doing a virtual teacher sharing. And just to boil it down simply, maybe we offer calculus, but they don't have the room to offer calculus on their campus, but they have 2 students that might be interested in taking calculus. So they would like to develop a system where we have a Google Classroom, where we upload lessons, and one conference teacher somewhere, if they would agree to do that, would have kind of office hours 2 or 3 times a week where students could do the online content like we would through Edgenuity or any other platform, but also have a live teacher available to email with questions, submit assignments, and then go to tutoring either virtually or physically. If they're able to get there. And so honestly, it's just an effort to see if that might work to help solve some of our smaller staffing issues. And it could potentially open up courses to our students that we wouldn't be able to offer otherwise. Maybe they offer something unique. We don't have it. They've got room for 3 kids and so a few of our kids sign up for that. They would go to a distance learning lab type environment. They would get online, they would work through that curriculum, and they would ask questions and get tutoring through kind of a virtual Google Meet a couple times, 2 or 3 times a week. Just something that we're working on. I got a couple superintendents that are going to bring products and suggestions back. Wanted you to be aware early on in the process.
Is there a cost associated with it? Like as far as like if we provided a teacher, do we compensate them or somebody else does today?
We're gonna have to work through that. That's been one of our discussion items is what does that cost? How do we pay that cost? Is that included in our conference? Do you charge per student? Who pays who? Though, again, very early on in the discussion, but we know that's gonna be an issue.
Yeah, I would be concerned about, I don't think inconveniencing is the right word, like our faculty. Like, does that mean that that particular teacher of that particular core class is spending more time, like even his or her conference block to work with the kids from the other schools? I thought that's the thought process, right? Like if they don't have the calculus teacher, they take the online class, and then the teacher from the other school district is like the resource for like questions, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So they'd have to burn that time. That obviously have to be compensated, yes, as far as I'm concerned. I would make that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and maybe others are probably thinking the same thing, I guess.
It would have to be almost like a dual credit stipended position, where kind of Lincoln would pay by the student, the dual credit teacher. I'm not aware if you, or I don't know if you're aware if you did that, but it would have to be something like that. And obviously we would have to have willing teachers to take that responsibility.
So I assume this probably won't be kicking off next week. Then.
No, sir. We're probably talking 1 to 2 years out by
Okay.
the time we develop something.
Moving on to approval items. We need to approve the levy for 22-23.
We still have 2 items.
Give you an updated agenda. You might have walked in with the.
School nutrition funds.
Oh.
Was
Okay. When did that one get updated? Must have been,
30 minutes from got here.
okay.
Just a quick one.
School nutrition fund surplus distribution or disbursement.
We talked about this, actually Dina presented it in the spring. We had about $32,000 more than DESI wants us to have by formula in our school nutrition fund. So part of that, we bought the new oven, but the new oven's about $11,000. We still have about $21,000 to spend. So I've been working with Krista and Fresh Ideas and our campus staff have talked about a need for maybe a grab and go for breakfast for kids in the morning. So we've got some bids on a grab and go cart, point of sale, like a distribution for kids to be able to actually purchase that remotely so that they're not having to go to the cafeteria, as well as we had talked maybe 2 board meetings ago about taking a look at improved food items for our kids. So that's something that Ms. Mitch and I have discussed. She started doing orders, and then we're going to meet again with the regional director August 31st and take a look at what we have left to spend on generally just improving our students' school nutrition experience and the food that they receive in the cafeteria.
When do we have to have that money spent by?
This year, we just have to have a plan.
Okay.
By the end of this month, which our plan is already set in place. And we're good there.
Very good. Sounds good. Any questions on that? Okay.
Then the next last one, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Communication repeater walkie-talkie. This is something we're experienced and we're really, in my opinion, it's honestly a safety issue. I know even in my office, if you try and call my cell phone in my office, it is hit and miss whether you can get in contact with me. If you go to Chris Minix's office in the basement, he can't even get a text, and our current set of walkie-talkies doesn't work. He can't hear them. And so what we need to really take a look at is installing a repeater for that. Not only will it help us from a safety perspective, but as we run larger events, as we have track meets and cross country and football games, we'll need a walkie-talkie system to adjust and manage that as a team. So we're looking at, had a bid to put a repeater on the roof, and all that does is boost the signal and extend it. It's worked pretty well for us so far, but it is a significant cost at about $5,000. And so I'd like to move forward with that in planning for next month approval of a purchase of that. We really do need it.
Like take a walkie-talkies, don't work through walls very well, or? I
They
mean,
work
with a
through not
repeater, they
always.
will, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ours just don't right now. Like I can't get a hold of Chris on his cell phone or his walkie-talkie. So if I'm out front and would need him or need any other administrator with a walkie-talkie, if they're in the basement, they're not going to hear me. If there are quite a few extended parts of our campus, they're not going to hear me. What this would do is allow us clear, instant communication as a team.
Do we have not strong enough Wi-Fi for Wi-Fi calling or in different areas?
I don't know that we do or not.
I think there's Wi-Fi coverage, but I have to go through and check all the different phones and kind of troubleshoot Apple, Mac, Android, and kind of go through, make sure, and test a bunch of different phones to make sure it's working. So I might look into.
And I don't know that even that would afford us the type of instant communication that I feel like we need. Yeah, I need to be able to reach down and say, hey, Coach Phillips, I really need you at the main entrance to the track, and have that response be fairly instantaneous.
Anybody have any questions or issues with that?
I'm a supporter of upgrading that however we need to. If we need to look into new hardware for that, I'm a supporter of that too, especially since we're going to football games. We absolutely have to be able to communicate instantaneously there. If you have a couple thousand people out there. I mean, we used to have that track. We had We used to have, them. We had to use them in track meets. I mean, that was the only way to manage certain situations. So whatever we gotta do there, I'm a supporter of for sure.
And as honestly, as we really get our campus in its very best shape, I hope to host more and more large events. I hope that we get as many district and post-district events as we can here. And it would help a great deal in managing those and make sure that the user experience, the participant experience is great. And the only way to do that is to plan really, really well and be responsive when things don't go as you plan, because anytime you're dealing with people, they often don't. And I think it would help. I really do.
Not to mention like in school disciplinary maybe or tense or, serious situations arise. I mean, I think it offers you a better opportunity to communicate immediately. Like I think, I don't know. We need to upgrade that. We need to have that capacity for sure.
I think it's a good safety improvement. That's a minor expense for the improved safety that I think it's an expense well worth it.
All right, we look forward to seeing that next month. Now we can do approval items. Approval levy for 22-23. Further discussion on that? I was kind of surprised that the personal property tax went up more than actual property tax. It was significantly, personal property went up significantly more than real estate, which made me wonder when some of these big properties like the Pros property and some of these band properties, boss properties, when they came on board, if it was 2 years ago they got on the tax rolls or they got on the tax rolls this year. I would have thought we would have seen a bigger jump this year, but maybe we already saw that the year before. I don't know. Anybody else have that thought if they were looking at those two numbers?
I honestly, I hadn't thought about that. I thought they were both incremental, but there should, at some point in our district's the real estate value for the properties in our district, there should have been a pretty sizable jump.
I would have thought so. That wasn't much of a jump considering, I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to other than personal property, but you wouldn't think that would go up more than real estate.
I honestly attributed the personal property increase to the cost in vehicles. I assumed that they had adjusted. That is
That could be.
completely anecdotal. It seems like a $50,000 truck costs you $70,000 now.
That's true.
A $70,000 truck costs you $90,000.
There could be something to that. All right, other discussion? Could I have a motion to approve the tax levy for 22-23?
I'll take the bullet here. How I state it? I'll state that specifically.
I think so. Make a motion to approve the levy for, the presented levy for 22-23.
I make a motion to approve the presented tax levy for 22-23 school year. I need to say at.
I don't think we can
Okay.
go into numbers just as presented.
All right.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same. Approve the levy rate for 22-23. Approval of bus routes, off-route pickups.
So we've had quite a few requests to come off route. We run routes quite often right off of Highway 50, specifically through town. One of the daycares that's in the old high school building has requested that the bus come off of route. To do that, there's some concern about how long it takes, especially during that time of day, to get off of route, pick up, and then come back on. Presently, we have quite a few people that are bringing kids or picking them up off of Highway 50, which is how we negotiated our bus route for this year. If we're going to do something different, we need to just keep into consideration that could potentially be a change cost with our bus company, and we're going to have extended bus rides. If it takes it's very quick to get off, but getting back on takes 5 or 10 or 15 minutes sometimes if you've been in town, maybe even longer for a bus that's struggling to get out. That's that 5 or 10 or 15 minutes added to every bus route we have. But we have had requests to do that. It will be an expense. And then something I would also offer is that once you establish that we are going off those bus routes, we really need to think about a limitation to what requests will entertain. Because pretty soon we're dropping everybody off and picking them up at the front door, which would be significantly more and be significantly longer bus routes.
Is that the only request we've had so far?
Historically, we've probably had 2 or 3 in the last 6 months, the most recent being from the daycare.
And that was the one we got last year too.
I think it's come before the board.
Stands.
How many kids does this impact?
There's 6 or 8 somewhere in that neighborhood.
Wasn't that the discussion last time? It was only like
There was
one kid.
I had
Well,
the impression it
she
was more
wanted to
than
be
that.
able to offer more. It was impacting her staffing ability, and she wanted to be able to offer to have more kids get off after school for after school care, but she wasn't. Yeah. I come up with that. It's true.
I could see where in the morning, the pickup of the kids would be easier than the drop off of the kids in the afternoon, just because of the crossover.
When it's. The part I struggle with is we need to keep a good working relationship with the daycares and facilities like that in our community because we do not offer after-school care and we do not have school on Mondays. And we are dependent on places like that caring for our children. And so I feel like it's important that we try to find a way to compromise.
Obviously, if this is what's this, like an action approval, it's like there'd be specificity with regards to where we're going exactly, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like Joe still the, we got Joe. Nolan.
Yep.
What are his thoughts on it?
Well, his thoughts are that it could be an increased cost and
Okay.
increased time in bus
Right,
routes.
he's just, I got, okay.
It's very practical. I'm
Right,
neither
I got it.
advocating for or against. I'm just saying in consideration of, we've got to think of those 2 things, however we'd like to do it. We can make it work and make it happen.
Maybe it's something we could talk with the city about too, what they might be willing to work with us on to help for that same situation, because I feel like we all know how crazy the Highway 50 gets in the mornings and even the afternoons. But I definitely think for little ones, I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable as a parent letting a little kid get off the bus and walk however distance it is to a daycare.
Drop off several kids in front of City Hall, don't we?
Yeah.
There's a bus stop there.
Right around the corner.
But they're probably not the same. Like,
Well, no, I'm just saying we stop at in front of City Hall, coming and going. So there are kids getting off there that are walking back behind the park and whatnot, so.
This is kind of all coming back to me. I mean, it was, I think the last time the problem was in the way it was probably presented to the daycare, because if I remember correctly, at first we told them it was, it had something to do with going over private property. And then we found out that wasn't the issue.
And
And
they
then
said
it
that the
was,
street was too narrow.
and we heard that too. And so there was a lot of, instead of just saying, this is why we will or won't do it, it felt like there was some bad information that went back and forth before. So it might be worth just having a pretty blunt conversation with, and figuring out, okay, what exactly are the issues and exactly how many kids are we talking about? Because I think when we dug into it last time, it turned out to be one kid, but if it's, I mean, 6 or 8 versus 1,
That's different.
that seems a little different to me. So
I will dig and give you an update very, very quickly because I know they're counting on an answer as soon as possible. So it will, I'll dig, I'll have something, but
Okay.
It's kind of hard to plan for all of that too, when we're doing open registration and asking who needs bus care or house, right? I mean, like, that's,
Yeah.
maybe that's something we also need to consider for the school district, is asking at the end of the next year for kids returning, are you gonna be riding buses? So that way we can be going to Joe and finding out from daycares, like who is in need of different routes and services. You know, because I know you are absolutely correct. You're gonna be opening a door, because like my kids live a mile down a gravel road. I absolutely would love it if the bus would come all the way down my gravel road and drop my kids off at my front door, but it doesn't make sense for my one child who would be riding the bus. But I definitely think for little ones and being closed on Mondays, Mark's made a good point. We need to find a way to work with daycares. So, I don't know. Something to consider.
maybe that's the parameters that Mr. Phil's was talking about, and with some specificity that as needed, case by case with daycare or child care facilities, servicing multiple students.
Okay. You need anything else from us on that one this time? Okay. Approve the mayor conference.
So Mayor Conference, Missouri Association of Rural Educators, is an annual conference. A lot of issues for small rural school districts, legal updates, policy updates. Historically, the superintendent and the president of the board have attended that conference. I would like to, we have in the past. I'll tell you if I felt it's a real value that we'll do every year afterwards. But at least once, I think it's a good idea that I experience that and then collaborate with other rural superintendents. They're probably one of my best resources for just in general, for options about how we might maneuver and operate to improve and just provide a good environment.
When is that conference?
So I think that's October 9th. So
To Sunday. I don't feel like I got it on my calendar.
I got a lot of dates. You know what, I might have. It's,
Maybe you could just send me a meeting request on it. Yep. Okay, that'd be awesome. All right, so we need to approve that, I guess.
It has been in the past.
Okay, I guess we'll approve it then. Can I have a motion to approve Bob to attend the mayor conference?
Make a motion that we approve the superintendent and board president go to the mayor conference if they would like.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion is approved.
I will say for the life of me, can't remember when it was, but I went to it because the mandatory board training that we all have to do. There was a time that coincided with that, the mayor conference, and it was something. It was you two that, I don't know if you've had that training done yet or not, but it was a good opportunity to get it done.
It's the 19th through the 21st
of October.
So
Too bad I don't have anything. Approval of the professional development plan.
as presented, little to no change from last year. It's really less of a plan than it is a process and procedure to approve professional development requests through the year. As mandated, it's still 1% of our budget, which we're in line with that. I will say that while we have the plan in place as it was created for this year, something that I'll look to do with our actual professional development plan is to create a tie between our student achievement data, our campus improvement plans, and our professional development committee. Really, those operate independently right now. But in order to kind of drive the improvement process with our campus and building leadership, we really need to have a tie with that professional development plan based on the needs identified in our student achievement data, and then include that in our district improvement plan and campus improvement plan. So that will be something that's presented next year. This is more of a forecast for that.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the professional development plan?
I move that we approve the professional development plan.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Raise your right hand if you approve approving the motion. Professional development plan. No, the same. Motion is approved. Anything else? All right, very good. Next regular meeting will be September 20th at the same time. Now need a motion, roll call motion to adjourn to closed session. Because the problem is the language is not on the
It's not
agenda.
a
So
Here, it's in the meeting minutes. I'll pull it up for him.
Yeah, do that. But you mind if that one be the guy who wrote that? I was just playing around with stuff. Anybody just jump right in. My next time.
Here you go, Brett. Can you read it?
I think so.
Oh, you want his? He's got it right here. Yeah, Phillips.
Okay, I move that we adjourn to closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.2.021 subsections 0.13 relating to individually identifiable personnel records, performance rating, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment. I will keep going on that. Okay, I ain't done all that before. All right. 0.03 relating to hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of personnel of a public governmental body when personal merit or performance is discussed or recorded, and 0.06 relating to scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals, including records of individuals' tests and examination scores, and 0.01 relating to legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys.
correct, that's definitely the long version.
Yes.
Can I-
I'll
can I-
second that.
Wow. Did I take the phone?
You did. That's
My
okay.
bad.
All right, roll call vote, Mark,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Naomi,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. We are now adjourned to closed session.